All right, Bree, I'll go ahead and turn it on over to you.
Alrighty, well, welcome to our Cal Poly Pomona CPP and SDSU Femineer Collab and Blab course students. I am Brianna Argueta, a Cal Poly Pomona student currently studying electromechanical engineering and technology. I work for the CPP Women in Science and Engineering program, as well as our outreach office. We are delighted that you are joining us here today. Today's virtual event, our Collab and Blab, provides the opportunity for students to connect with industry professionals and engineering students from a variety of fields. Today's industry guests will share a little bit about themselves, tell us how they got started in industry, and offer advice for achieving success as a STEM student, and offer advice as well as for a college student and transitioning to industry. So today's featured speakers are Kyle Dominguez from Boeing, Heather Nielsen, a civil engineer, Vanessa Ruiz, and Kaylin Borders, who are both San Diego State University students. Each speaker will give brief introductory remarks, and then we will have a Q&A period. So if you have questions, feel free to ask them in the chat as you think of them, or raise your hand using the raised hand icon, and you can ask your question and we'll pick on you. So again, thank you for joining us here today. Now we will like to pass the floor to Ms. Teresa Garcia for some words from SDSU.
Thank you, Bree. So great to have you all join us today. Thanks for our panel to be here, and thank you for logging in and listening to this information. I'm the Assistant Dean here at San Diego State University in Southern California, San Diego, of course, just a little further from Cal Poly Pomona. Again, just great to have you here, and have a wonderful Friday after this and a great weekend.
Thank you so much, Ms. Garcia. So again, welcome and thank you for joining us today. I would now like to introduce our first guest speaker. Our first guest speaker will be Mr. Kyle Dominguez, who joined the Boeing Company in June of 2012 after graduating from Cal Poly Pomona with a bachelor's degree in science and aerospace engineering. Since joining Boeing, Kyle has worked as a propulsion modification engineer, structural design engineer, as well as a certification plan owner, and is currently a galley inserts program manager for the 737 and the 787. Since early 2017, Kyle has also been one of the program managers for the SoCal multidiscipline skill team that offers rotational opportunities for early career engineers. Outside of work, Kyle enjoys cooking meals, baking delicious desserts, and visiting locally owned food joints, as well as building Legos. Kyle, please take the floor.
Yeah, thank you for that wonderful introduction, Brianna. Yeah, I'm very happy to be here. I do apologize for not having video, but my work computer does not allow that. Gotta love working at a company with defense contracts. But yeah, as it's been said, my name is Kyle J. Dominguez, and I work for Boeing. It's kind of scary to think I've almost been here for 10 years, and that I graduated back in 2012. So it's just a good thing to kind of reflect back on. Just kind of go through a few things for myself. You know, I've known I wanted to be an engineer for quite some time. As was mentioned, one of my passions is Legos. Grew up just tearing those apart, building them. I'd be the kid who'd be in the center of my room, surrounded by Legos and building stuff. So kind of knew from a young age, just wanted to be someone who designed and built something. And when I was really just trying to figure out what to do for my, career, it was like, well, like building stuff. I like math. I like science. And all that kind of added up to go into engineering. And then it was more just a choice of, well, what sort of engineering. There was mechanical, there's electrical, there's aerospace, there's civil, so many different fields out there. And it was just, hey, you know what? I like spacecraft and airplanes, so let's go with that one. And so it was just that sort of stuff, and just being intrigued by how stuff worked, how you could take it apart, and just wanting to know more about that. So just a lot of things that kind of went into me being inspired to be an engineer. Really, one of the toughest obstacles, at least to kind of overcome for me throughout that, was just getting the finances for school. And luckily was able to get that through financial aid and whatnot. Always happy to field questions and whatnot for that sort of stuff. But, having that sort of challenge is always one that's hard, but very happy for like FAFSA and Cal Grant and all that sort of stuff. But yeah, just really happy to be here. Anything else you guys want me to go over? I know there's a lot more questions, but I want to make sure we leave time for everyone.
We will be having a Q&A session after our introduction of all our speakers, but thank you so much for being here and sharing your experience and your wisdom with us. With that said, I will be introducing our next guest speaker, Ms. Heather Nelsons. Heather graduated from Cal Poly Pomona, go Broncos, in the class of 2011 with a bachelor's degree in civil engineering. During her senior year at Cal Poly Pomona, she was introduced to the idea of working construction rather than design. Her first job was with a major contractor, Hewitt, known for projects all over the world, and Carmageddon. She worked for them for 5 years in structural and infrastructure, from bridges to elevated light rails. Heather has, as an engineer in the field, has eventually worked from being an engineer to becoming a superintendent. In 2016, Heather moved to Webcor, a GC contractor specializing in high rises in Southern California. She later switched over to project management for more of a focus on financials, budgets, and controls in owner relations as well. Heather worked for Webcor until 2021, when her family decided to try something new and moved to her husband's hometown of Louisiana, where she now works as a project manager, building apartments for communities. And over the course of her career so far, Heather has fallen in love with concrete, cranes, thoroughly through enjoying just being outside with the guys and learning something new. She really finds joy when she gets to complete a project from start to finish. Heather, you now have the floor.
Thanks so much. My name is Heather Nielsen. I was super stoked by Kyle and Boeing and not being able to see his face. I was like, ooh, that's secretive. Again, my name's Heather, and I am a graduate of Cal Poly Pomona, and I do have a civil engineering degree, but I actually work in construction, which I think is fun and fascinating. For those who go into engineering, there are a plethora of opportunities for us. And I didn't even know this existed until my senior year at Cal Poly Pomona, that I could actually play outside in the dirt and help manage crane plans and erect buildings and work on huge freeways like the Carmageddon. All of those things I just did not know were available. So I love sharing that with any engineer majors. You have the world available to go play in. When I was in community college, so I went from community college to Cal Poly Pomona, which I thought was a really good strength for me. And it was also financially a good decision since I was paying for my own college. My physics professor indicated I might consider engineering as a field, and I didn't know what that even meant. Like Kyle also said, there are so many types of engineering, from petroleum to aerospace to civil, which is infrastructure that's outside, to mechanical, which is more like the stuff inside. I always think of like cars and faucets as mechanical. And then within civil engineering, which is my degree, you can do water, you can do land, you can do concrete, you can do high rise, you can play with just the concrete, you can play with anything above or below the ground. And it really is like this whole world available. You can build roller coasters, you can do it all, right? So, and one more thing, Kyle, I love Legos. Oh, Legos. Secretly, I wish I had 20 extra hours a week to put together the Harry Potter castle, but I don't right now. So that being said, I highly recommend, if you like taking things apart and putting them back together, especially in your own way, engineering might be the thing for you. And I know it's one of our questions later, but I mean, there's also tons of ways to find out if it fits for you. I got really lucky in my senior year because my teachers knew me really well, and they were like, you should consider construction. I think you'd like outside more. You don't feel like a desk job kind of girl. And they were totally right on the money. So my mentors around me, the people that know you, they're really good assets when kind of deciding like which direction. But also in those directions, I've had good bosses that have helped me kind of navigate, hey, you should go try some project management. start playing with the Excel sheets and the financials and budgets and all those things. So that's kind of where I'm at. I'm only about 10 years into my career as well. I'm curious to see what the next 10 holds, but there's a world out there for you. So if you're interested, feel free to ask me any questions after this as well.
Again, thank you so much for being here and sharing your experiences with us today. I will be introducing our next guest speaker. Our next guest speaker will be Kaylin Borders, who is a SDSU student majoring in aerospace engineering with a minor in honors in interdisciplinary studies and is from the Washington, D.C. area. While at school, Kaylin has had the opportunity and to be a part of the supplemental instruction program, where she has led 2 peer-assisted learning sessions a week for the physics mechanics course, and actually spent the summer as a spacecraft engineering intern with the U.S. Naval Research Laboratory. Aside from her studies, Kaylin is an active member of several clubs on campus, including the Women's Society, the Women's Science Society, the Women in Aeronautics and Astronautics, and the Society of Black Engineers. Currently, Kaylin is a NIM Mark Scholar, where she works as an undergraduate research assistant looking for fuel optimal powered descent guidance for future humans on Mars missions. Kaylin, you have the floor.
Hi everyone, my name is Kaylin. I'm a 4th year aerospace engineering major. For me, I started on my path because I like to problem solve. I think when I was young, I like to ask questions and I like to figure out problems and try to solve them. And so that started me on a path to go into like a STEM-centered high school. And then through that, I learned more about STEM and different branches of engineering. And then I got really interested in space. I've always been interested in astronomy. And so when deciding what I wanted to study, aerospace was kind of an automatic for me. So I kind of automatically chose that. And ever since then, I've loved it. I hope to pursue higher education in aerospace engineering, to go to grad school and to work as a researcher and become a PI one day. I guess that's my ultimate goal. And yeah, I was inspired to help co-found a club with another couple of girls on campus called Women of Aeronautics and Astronautics. And it's basically a community of like-minded people who have any interest in aerospace or astronomy or anything of that field. And we host like social and technical and professional development events. And we try to basically get everyone who wants to be involved a chance to be involved in the aerospace community here at San Diego State. And so I thank Teresa so much for extending the invite to being here, and I am so happy to answer any questions later.
Once again, thank you for being here and sharing your experiences with us today. And I will be introducing our next guest speaker, Vanessa Ruiz, a senior mechanical engineering undergraduate student at San Diego State University. During her academic career, Vanessa has had the opportunity to work at General Atomics, ASI, as a composites manufacturer and assembly engineering intern. She is also serving a second term as the president of the Aztec Racing Formula and Society of Automotive Engineers. These experiences have enriched her understanding of engineering, as well as the importance of teamwork and perseverance. Vanessa, take the floor.
Hello, everyone. Thank you so much for the introduction and the opportunity to be here. I also would like to apologize for not having a full screen, some technical difficulties, but we're going to push through that. So again, I'm just a San Diego State University student. I'm working my way through my academic career. I've had the wonderful, gracious opportunity to be an intern here at General Atomics Aeronautical Systems. A little about myself as to why I turned to engineering was that I was actually a biology major and trying to do medicine, but in retrospect, something inside of me always kind of wanted to see the problem, fix the problem, and then find a better way to find a solution, right? To reinforce it. And so I ended up finding that my my passion ended up just being engineering and making sure I understood how everything worked, because, you know, we always ask why, right? We're always like, what's this? Why we're doing this, and how are we going to do it? So I found that mechanical engineering was going to be my home. And so by having these experiences and being part of a lot of clubs, and specifically Aztec Racing, it's one that allowed me to have a lot of opportunities outside of school, right? So I found it to be super important to include everyone and have everyone understand that being part of a student organizations is one of the key factors for one to push forward and gain experience. I'm open to any questions later on about how I got here and what I did as a student to get where I'm at now. But yes, thank you again.
Sorry, I was muted. So once again, thank you to all our guest speakers for being here today to share your experiences and be able to bestow knowledge upon future generations of STEM students. We, once again, feel free for everybody attending to ask your questions in the chat, or just raise your hand using the raise hand icon, and we will call upon you so that you may ask a question. We will give all our students a couple minutes to ask questions, but I will ask our first third question. What inspired you to pursue STEM as a major, and is there any specific event or moment that you knew you wanted to go into STEM?
I'll start. I know that Kyle like referenced the Legos, which was kind of like the little voice that was like, hey, you like taking things apart and putting them together. But what really did it for me was Professor Mason at my community college in Palm Desert, my physics professor, when he said, maybe you should consider it. And it was somebody from an outside perspective who saw how well I was doing at physics and math, and the way that I would try to solve problems on my quizzes and tests. And once he said it, it became this thing of like, okay, well, what did they do? What does that look like? What's available for me as a career? And that started that movement for me. Like I said before, there is so many different options as an engineer. So I really enjoyed like that openness. Like I didn't get like pigeonholed. Like if you're a lawyer, like I'm going to study the law. There's a bunch of laws available too, but with engineering, I could do everything from cranes to light rail to water to earthquake engineering. And I really enjoyed that it kind of had this openness just in case, right? And so that was really at that moment when my professor said, hey, maybe you should consider this. And I started looking at it some more.
Yeah, and I guess I will kind of jump into mostly because it seems like Heather and I are the two Lego fans, or two Lego people here. So we're going to bookend a little bit. And Heather, just a fun fact, I don't know if you saw my comment, but both my brother-in-law and my father-in-law are civil engineers. So, and I'm married to a chemical engineer. So it's a whole engineering family over here. But yeah, really, I can't pin it down to a specific moment that made me want to be an engineer. You know, like I said, I built Legos a lot as a kid, and growing up, heard a lot about my grandpa, who actually worked for Lockheed Martin, and we really don't know what he did, because he would just go out to the desert and do things and could never come back and tell his family anything. So I know he was on a top secret program. I just don't know what he did in it. But there was this display case we had, and it was just all these airplane models he built. And I just remember staring at that as a kid and just being really enthusiastic about that. So I guess it's more me wanting to kind of follow my grandpa's footsteps, and then also just having that natural desire for building things, wondering how they work, and wanting to figure all that sort of stuff out. And as far as Nicole's question, as far as what was our favorite, well, at least my favorite Lego set as a kid, oh God, that's a hard question. Trying to think, like there was a lot of them. I'll get back to you on that. I have to think about which one I like the most.
I think I have to say it's the, oh, sorry.
No, go
Why don't
ahead.
you go ahead? No, you first. Caitlin, go ahead, please.
I was gonna say, for me, like I said, I was very interested in astronomy. But I think, but after you leave elementary school, you don't really learn about astronomy subjects anymore. And like middle school and high school, it's kind of like you don't really learn much about that. And so I think it's kind of childish, but I was watching an Iron Man movie and I was looking at Tony Stark and I was like, this guy is like amazing. Like he just has a whole lab in his basement and he just like builds whatever he wants and he gets to like save people's lives, which is awesome. But it's like he has all this stuff and he can just think and then apply. And so I was looking and I was like, I guess I fell in love with the fact that being able to ask questions and problem solve and then being able to like solve them myself and apply the knowledge that I've learned. And so I was like, okay, I want to do engineering. And then the fact that I like space, I looked into aerospace engineering, and I liked how you could like go into aviation or you could go more into like spacecraft. And it kind of just like pushed me down this rabbit hole that I am happy at this. So definitely Iron Man movie.
I would have to say that what got me into STEM as a general, not just focusing just specifically on engineering, but when I first got into wanting to do medicine and biology, what really just struck me was the science and just understanding what really goes down within the human body. And I was going to specifically go into orthopedics. So I wanted to understand the structures and how everything worked and how strong everything was, right? But then something inside of me, I've always loved race cars. I've always have been involved with my family and going to Baja, which is off-road racing. I was always involved with my brother with Legos, bringing that topic. So like as a kid, I've always been like exposed to it without really realizing what I was doing. And as a kid, when I was playing with my friends or doing group projects, like when it came to doing like in AP physics when I was in high school and we had to do the bridge or when we had to do a skyscraper, like I was already thinking ahead of like, okay, cool, like what are my steps that I have to do? How am I gonna prevent any problems? And so then once I got into college and I was looking at my friends and all their work, my attention just gravitated over there. And then I just realized that, look, like engineering was my home in terms of, because I really like to deal with structures. I like to see where the points of failure, how can we improve it? How can we reinforce? And then working with composites. And it was really interesting to see how everything just works together. And that's how here as my intern as a composites engineer, I was really able to understand how planes get put together, how drones get put together, how to reinforce appropriately, how to mitigate any issues or how to prevent issues, right? For me, it's always problem solving. I always, even with my friendships, I'm always like, how can I try not to get people mad? You know, like how to try to fix problems when I'm just not even involved. And so it just kind of went through it. And I thought it was really fun to finally use my skill set and really work with other people who have the same mind, because when we're all working together, we really get to put in, no pun intended, put the Lego set together. But yeah, no, once you kind of know without knowing when you're going into STEM, like you realize without realizing that STEM is your calling. And if it's not, it's okay. Like mentioned before, there's tons of different, for example, if you're going into engineering, like myself, I was hopping between aerospace and mechanical, back and forth and back and forth and back and forth. And so when I realized, I was like, oh, I'll just go mechanical because it's the jack of all trades. I get to go into so much. And so don't restrict an advice from a person who's been jumping back and forth from major within the same STEM field, is that don't restrict yourself because you think you have to. Heather mentioned before, there's so many engineering opportunities out there that we don't even know. I didn't even know there was like 15 different things under mechanical and another 15 under aerospace and another 15 under industrial. Like there's so much that we can learn, and asking those peers around us and asking those mentors, don't be afraid to ask, right? we shouldn't, because we always ask why, but don't be afraid to ask what to do and how to do things. That's a key thing that I would like to mention with how I decided to choose STEM. So.
Thank you everyone for your wonderful responses. And our next question is actually one from the chat from Brianna. What was your favorite memory from college or your career thus far?
One of my favorite memories from college has to be when I was in Aztec Racing. I'm still in it now, but when I first started, I was coming in as like a sophomore, having no idea what was going on around me. And I had the opportunity to go to competition with them up in Nebraska. And so I was able to see tons of different, because we build for those who are not familiarized with what FSAE is that we build a Formula One race car in a go-kart form. So it's a smaller scale, super fun. And I got to able to work with them and see what college students can do without having to be out in the industry already, and how we're able to problem solve, and seeing all these universities around the world. I kid you not, next to us was Mapatic, was a school from Brazil. And then farther down was 2 schools from Mexico, 1 from Germany, 1 from India. And then a lot of the universities from the United States all come together. Just seeing us all share that one interest was just mind blowing. And so it was really fun to see all of our cars, all of our designs, how we all have the same goal, but we all arrive there so differently. And seeing that was like super awesome, super eye-opening. So I guess that can be one of the top memories that I really enjoyed from college.
Let's see.
Go ahead, Kyle.
Go ahead. No, Heather, you go first.
I was going to say graduating. Was my favorite. I made it. But there was clubs like ASCE where we got to be on the concrete canoe team, which was so cool to see a bunch of like nerdy students get together and make a lightweight concrete float, and then you paddle it 100 meters, and then you do relay races, and there's presentations. Those are really, I was helping with the concrete canoe team for almost 3 years while I was at Cal Poly, and I loved it. In my career, I have to say my favorite thing to date is when I climbed crane number 2 at Oceanwide Plaza. If you're in downtown LA, right across from the Staples Center, Oceanwide Plaza is still stalled out. It's a 3-tower project that's not complete yet, but the second tower has been taken down, and it was 300 and some odd feet in the air and connected to that building. And I climbed it with our crane operator. And then I stood on top of the bridge as it was swinging and picking up loads. And I had to stop about halfway because my legs got all weak, and you know, it's kind of high, but then you get to the top, and it is the coolest thing ever to be that far in the air over downtown Los Angeles on a crane. It was probably the coolest thing I've ever done. So yeah.
Heather, just you talking about that makes me a little nervous. Yeah, granted, I know with stuff like that, you're always safe, but geez, yeah, that had to be incredible. Let's see, from my end from college was, I will second the graduation, completely awesome. So happy to finish, get out of there, especially after taking 6 years. But probably my favorite memory is for my senior project, where we actually got to go fly on, and I'm trying to remember what they wanted us to call it because they didn't like the public name for it, but we entered a competition through NASA, and we got to fly on, they wanted us to say the Weightless Wonder. Everyone else might know it as the Vomit Comet, which is a plane that you basically go up on, and it does a parabolic flight path, and it simulates zero gravity. So I got to go hop on that and test a attitude control system for a satellite, And I'm not talking about like a person's attitude. I'm talking about like its orientation in space. So we got to design that as college students and then go into a simulated zero-G environment and test it. And geez, I learned all sorts of stuff from that. Just how to think about how to do a test, all the things you have to consider, learned about interferences from the plane and from the environment. But yeah, that was probably one of my favorites as from college. And then from career-wise, one of my favorite things has to have been getting involved with our rotation programs at Boeing and being able to help develop that and build that up and work with early career engineers to help them find their passions. That's ultimately something that I thoroughly enjoy, and it's kind of like allowed me to really realize, hey, I love being in the talent realm and developing people. So that's kind of something that's a key thing for me now. So yeah, that's all I got to say for that one.
Teresa, are you gonna say something?
No, Kaylin, go right ahead.
For me, I think I have two memories. My first one was freshman year, and it was my first time walking into a Women in Science Society, GBM. I remember like walking into the meeting and seeing like 100 to 200 college freshmen, seniors, juniors, and all types of people, all who were STEM majors, and going weekly to those meetings and being like, wow, like there's a community here for me at school and at state. And so definitely finding community within those first like 1 to 2 years of being in school was a big game changer for me to be able to stay in STEM. I think definitely knowing that you have a group of people, no matter the subject, that are like there, that are struggling with you, that you can study with, that you can like pick their brain, they can pick your brain. It was definitely very inspiring for me and one of my favorite parts. And then I would say my second favorite part is internships, learning how broad of a career that you're going into. Like you can take so many different paths. And I remember just like sitting in my internship one day and picking my mentor's brain and just like learning about their path and learning about the path of other people that worked in the lab, and knowing that I don't have to like follow like a strict traditional path to get to where I want to go. I can try new things and be curious and maybe like go get a bachelor's degree in like something else and then maybe try something else later. So definitely knowing that I don't have to stick to a straight path to get to my goals, but I can be curious and ask questions and branch out and do certain things. When I learned that, I was definitely just like, wow, okay, like, this is actually really cool. And I'm so jealous you did the vomit comment. I've always wanted to try that.
Brianna, I just wanted to thank you, Kaylin, and all of the speakers. But Brianna, I just wanted to point to a question that was in the chat earlier that I don't think have been addressed yet. And if it helps, in case you're trying to scroll and find it, it's from Zoe Nyberg. And the question is, like, going from civil to construction, do you find that your engineering degree helps you in other areas?
So I assume, Zoe, that one was for me. A lot of construction firms actually do hire civil engineers and mechanical engineers and some other engineering, because your last 2 years where you're focused on your CE or SE or classes, your engineering classes, teach you about loading, wind design, earthquake, timber, concrete, steel, all the things that are necessary for construction. You start learning how to read plans. You start understanding how like traffic designs are constructed, why we have 2 lanes versus 4 lanes. So we're very good at being helpful in construction because your brain has already been wired to look at those plans and to understand how a structure is built. So I'm speaking of structure because that's my personal world. So when I would see false work is what you build first before you build the structure, pour concrete or put steel on it. My brain was already seeing how the loads needed to be distributed on this false work so that it would be safe and hold it for the time that was necessary, and how to easily dismantle it as well. The things that it didn't teach me, because I wasn't a construction management major, was schedule and finances and man hours and things like that, but things that you could learn anyway. In construction, they look for both of us. They look for civil engineers and CM majors. So if that is something that you're interested, absolutely available to you. So.
Thank you so much, and thank you for the question. So the next question I'll be asking from the chat is a combination of two questions, one from Nicole and one from Teresa. What is your favorite Lego set, and have you been to Legoland? I know this has been slightly addressed in the chat, so if anybody would like to add to that, that would be amazing.
Mine would have to be like the Millennial Falcon. I enjoy, so I'm a big Star Wars fan. I should have noted that before. And I'm also like, I just have it. So my friend, so okay, granted, I was tutoring my best friend's like little sister, right? And so her dad had bought her a Millennial Falcon, and it was just sitting on her shelf, the box not open. And I was like, oh my gosh, I just kept staring at it every time I was tutoring her. And so one day I was able to see her progress. And obviously, like once we were like, okay, cool, we can move on. I was like, you know what's a great activity? Building that Millennial Falcon. And so I asked her mom if it was okay once after we finished. And then we finished it, and it was just like, oh my gosh, it was just amazing. It took forever, but it was great.
Vanessa, is this the Ultimate Collector's Edition version of the Millennium Falcon? Like the really fancy one?
Yes, it was like it was the one that was like super intricate. It was just like, it was.
Yeah, the one that's like
he was
2
also,
feet or something like that?
Oh, wait. No.
Okay,
Sorry.
okay.
But it like had like super details in there. I was just like, I don't remember this being in the older set. So I was like, okay, I mean, whatever. It was still really fun though, overall.
Yeah, no, it's I can definitely understand that. Millennium Falcon set is very gorgeous, and it's something I've stared at for quite some time. It's just the high price tag is something that's like, oh dang.
Yes, I'm with you on that.
Favorites.
That's right. And so that's when I saw it, because like her dad is super big into Legos. Like he has the Porsche 911 on there. He has like the Death Destroyer on as well. Like he has the Lego sets. They're just in the boxes, and I'm just like, we need to get the Millennium Falcon at least out, you know?
Yeah, like how can you just leave them in the boxes? It's like it's almost a crime.
I don't know. I don't know. And I think it was just the fact that they didn't have time, and I was like, look, I'll get you guys started. And so, and it was also a building experience since I was tutoring her in physics. And I was like, look, this is how we're gonna do it, right? So it was a little of a double dip.
I mean, you can get lots of great physics lessons out of the way they design and build Legos. Like there are so many intricate ways that they put those things together and the way they can hold a load. It's really cool.
Exactly. Like I saw in the chat talking, I think, was it you saying about being a Lego engineer? Yes, it was. There's like the designers, honestly, if you guys go to Legoland, I know it can be a little overpriced, but it's just, you see it and you're just, wow. It's just, wow. There's so many little things that one doesn't really notice, but when you guys are in STEM, I promise you, your eyes open and you're just like, haha. Like once you get in your statics class, right? That was like my first like eye-opening class that really just solidified the fact I wanted to be an engineer and work with structures, was that I was just walking on a normal day and I was like, wow, look, there's a truss. Like, oh, that's not going to hold. Or just like, you just see it and it's just STEM is really, really big. We should totally do a Lego club. I don't think there's one at San Diego State. We should make one.
I mean,
Caitlin,
like,
you want to help?
Down. Let's do this.
Right? Let's do this. Let's all work together. We're going to make a Lego club. We're going to do it.
Let's do it. We got this.
Alrighty, if anyone else wants to add, feel free to add. If not, I will move on to our next question. I'll give everyone a couple seconds. Alrighty, so we will be moving on to the next question asked in the chat by Teresa. while you were in college, how many activities did you participate in? And what do you think were the most important activities that kind of shaped your college experience? I added a little bit to that question, but
I love the Lego Club idea, totally. I was in ASCE, American Society of Civil Engineers, right from the get-go from going to Cal Poly Pomona. I know Kaylin already kind of hit on it, but what was really helpful for me in a new school was attending club meetings where I could see my people, like who are the other nerdy people here? I know they're here. And Cal Poly Pomona is a really big engineering school, but I didn't know much about civil, so that really helped. So I started attending the meetings. FYI, you get free lunch. That's awesome. So if you didn't know that, go get lunch. And then they usually have speakers who talk about the plethora of options in engineering. For the 4 years, I was at 4 years. Yeah, it took a while that I was there. I not only attended meetings, I became a community service officer there, and then I participated on the concrete canoe team. And I think that they're really helpful. Here's why. One, you have a fellowship of humans that you're around regularly that will support you, have fun, joke around, and make finals a lot easier. They really will. You'll have study groups, right? You'll have these go-getter people that are like you that you can kind of hold hands with as you get through school. 2, it's fun. You need fun. And then 3, a lot of these clubs have career fairs and people who come in to speak from different companies. And this really starts lining you up for when you're ready to graduate. And that's what I appreciated about it, because that's exactly how I met Kiewit. They were at a career fair. My teachers thought about construction. These were all things that were just set up for that. Now, the career fairs happen anyway, but if you're linked into a club, you're probably going to meet some of these people who work for these companies, shake their hand, and get to know them a little bit before you even attend a career fair. And not only did it help me understand what I was thinking about going into, it made it easier when that second introduction came, and it made it very easy to get my first job. So really helpful.
Yeah, and then just kind of going off of what Heather said, clubs I think are probably one of the most important things for me, from my perspective, from a college standpoint, mostly because they teach you so much about not only like just being able to apply the skills that you're learning in your classes, but also about social dynamics. They give you leadership potential. When Boeing's looking for new employees, one of the biggest things we look for are folks who have that hands-on experience as well as leadership experience, because it helps you develop soft skills, which are so critical to your career in any field whatsoever. So just can't say enough about clubs and what you get out of them.
I think for me, I'm a big people person. I think when you go into STEM, there is a preconceived notion that you aren't supposed to be a big people person, that you're just supposed to be nerdy and just don't have any friends, things like that, which is completely wrong. And so a big part of my college experience was clubs, but also finding ways to give back and communicate with those around me and those under me. And so one big way that happened was SI. We have a program at our school called supplemental instruction. And so basically, you become a tutor and a TA for a class. And so I was able to do that for a class I had taken a year previously. And I was able to just connect with students who were under me, help communicate the material to them, talk to them, give them study tips and skills, things like that. And through that, I learned I love interacting with people. I love building community. I love just getting to know those around me who were in STEM, who were also struggling, and I love being able to help them. And so definitely clubs, and then finding a way to give back to those on your campus and around your community.
Well, thank you for your responses. Our next question is another question from the chat. What project have you been a part of that you're most passionate about, or that you're most proud about?
I think, and it's actually jumping off on a lot of what we talked about beforehand, is is about like the clubs and organizations. I think one of the biggest projects that I was I'm the most passionate and proud of is going to have to be, of course, like Aztec Racing. That as a whole is a big giant project, which is combining different disciplines and putting it together. And as the president, I was able to go ahead and manage that team, not only financially, but also technically with my chief engineer alongside. And so I was able to really just see a team that was starting from zero, since we're such a young team, and flourishing and seeing the improvements and seeing the passion within our leads and our team members' like eyes. That for me was really just like, okay, cool. It made me feel that I was able to help them actually do what they want to do. I have them actually accomplish the goals that they had set from the beginning of the semester and last semester, and really see how they're putting their minds together and creating and building, manufacturing this vehicle that will then in June be running. So that itself is one of my biggest passions, of just really seeing a project being accomplished and the steps that it took to get that accomplishment, regardless of the setbacks. It really just sees how we're motivated, because without the motivation, we won't be anywhere. So really seeing that from them has really been a big accomplishment, and just something super proud. And I can say like, cool, we did this together, right? So it was wonderful.
The project I think that was the most fun for me was not the tallest. It was the one that I got to be the project manager of. It was when I had just been promoted to project manager. It was in Beverly Hills adjacent. It's called the Four Seasons Residence. And it was, I think for me, the very first time that like I was the final responsible party on it. Yeah. So I had a superintendent, I had assistant superintendent, a project engineer, and from digging out the ground to pouring the foundations to when the top out of the building structure was done was all under my responsibility. And I think it felt like it was my baby. I would go to bed sleeping about it. I would wake up in the morning thinking about it. Because it was the very first time that it was like, okay, the budget was like 25 million. And I also remember giggling, like, they're really going to let me play with this much money. Like, right. And I found it, fascinating and frustrating. And it was like its own soap opera for like 2 years. And it's done, and people are moving in, and it's beautiful. But because I got to start it and finish it, I think is probably why I'm the most attached to this, as well as it was the first time I was the PM. So like the buck stopped with me, and, and so it definitely, I felt it when I went to bed at night.
I think for me, what I am most passionate about would definitely be in my current research lab. We're working on basically methods to land humans on Mars. And even though it sounds very like cool in an abstract way, the part that makes me proud is my personal, I guess, growth and the things I've learned. And the most important thing being not scared to ask questions. I think before I started this research lab, I was kind of still like a timid person, like, oh, I'll just figure it out by like reading the book or sending an email, or maybe just like asking someone else in the class later. But this research lab has definitely challenged me to not be afraid to ask questions and not be afraid to be curious. And it's like an ongoing journey that keeps making me prouder, I guess, as months go by, because I have learned so much, and I have learned that it's okay not to know something, and it's okay to keep asking questions, keep asking them in different ways, in different forms if you still don't understand it, and also like know that whatever you're doing, like you are making a really big contribution to society, and so just ask questions and know that you are making an impact.
Yeah, and then from my perspective, and I think I had mentioned this before, but at least as far as my actual job, it's just our rotation programs and developing folks. It's something that I've learned is such a key aspect to my person and what I enjoy a lot. And it's great just to be able to see these folks come into our programs, not really know what they're looking for, and then, you know, be able to help them find some stuff. And just to be a part of someone's career or someone's life to help them realize that sort of stuff is just an amazing feeling. So yeah, that's my bit.
Thank you, Kyle. Well, we want to say thank you to all of our speakers, and Kaylin, I just want to say I loved your message that you don't always have to know the answer and it's okay to ask questions. So thank you very much for that. I appreciate those words because you are absolutely right. So I want to say again, thank you to all of our attendees, and a special thank you to our guest speakers today, Kyle, Heather, Kaylin, and Vanessa. We truly appreciate your time and interest in sharing your experiences to help our students to succeed in their academic and professional careers. This ends our Femineer Collab and Blab for our students, and we hope you all have a wonderful rest of the day. And we look forward to seeing all of you at the Femineer Summit that's coming up on April 27th. So if you haven't registered for the event, we encourage you to register as soon as possible. And we'll see everybody on April 27th. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye.
Thank you. Have a great week.
You too. Thank you.
Thanks, everybody.
Thank you.